Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family. I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
That's the only way I want to start this week's podcast. What a wonderful day! Oh.
I was like, what's happening?
Wait a minute. Hold on, guys. What's going on?
What are we doing?
I signed up for a podcast. What's happening?
I was like, did I leave YouTube? Is something autoplayed? Is this an ad?
Well, you know what, guys? Welcome. This is episode 219. Matt, introduce us. What movie are we watching, and what guests do we have?
We are reviewing the ongoing saga of the Planet of the Apes series with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It takes place either 200 or 300 years. It wasn't specific.
Many
I think
centuries.
I heard 2. I heard 3. All it says is centuries. A couple of centuries later, after the trilogy of the Planet of the Apes. So a lot of people are saying that's a perfect trilogy. Don't ruin it. Why make more? But they did it anyway, and we're going to talk about it. And of course, we have Brandon Hadnot back onto the show. Sir, it's been a minute since we've had you. And since then, we were like, hey, we got to get you on real quick a couple months ago. Because now you were, from what we knew, you are a friend, and we knew you were a husband. Now you can add a father to the list. You've been very busy, sir. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time for coming back on the show, and welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
How much time do you have on your hands now with everything? I know, like we used to chat a lot about certain things, and now I feel like you have to be very selective with your time as well as seeing for your love of movies. And I know it's a few and far in between nowadays.
Yeah, I've blocked off like an hour and 30 to 2 hours for this podcast because and my family knows by now how we get down with movie talk. So I'm sure it'll be
I don't have a good support system.
Oh yes.
Well, we appreciate having you on, and also congratulations. I know when we had you on, it was like I think we just did the math before we started recording. It was like a week before the baby came, and we were like, oh, we had to get him on real quick because I know it's gonna be a while before we can do this again. And so it's just a couple months from now in May. So this is gonna be a great time. We have a lot to discuss because it's been a minute. So we want to hear you always have great insight about literally everything. That's why we love to have you on. And so we want to get a couple of highlights while we have you. For get an update on Birth of Flowers. So how's that going for you?
Yeah. So because of my good old cute, super adorable baby, I have been focusing only on him and not so much on filmmaking as much. But Birth of Flowers is still in the running. I still storyboard. I still have my screenplays that I'm sharpening up, and just like I said last time, I'm still super inspired by Yamishibai Theater of Darkness. It's like an anthology anime sort of kind of motion comic that they do. And I've also been watching horror movies lately that have been kind of getting the wheels turning. So Birth of Flowers still out there. I know it's been a long time since I came out with something new, but keep the faith and know that more episodes definitely are coming. So I do appreciate you guys asking about that because it's on my mind all the time, every day.
Oh, seriously, any of your work, we look forward to hearing anything about it. I just your hearing your thoughts on so many different things. I think we just really appreciate your creative output, like all the things that you put out and just the perspective that you gain from all the things that you watch. I just think is so valuable, and we just appreciate your time and everything. So any way that we can help promote you, that's what we're here for you. Really.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah, I know
appreciate
you
you
said
guys.
I know you said that you started storyboarding on a couple of ideas. So how is that process going in, knowing some of the inspirations that you've had?
Oh man, storyboarding is super exciting for me because it helps me see the movie or the short so much better by bringing it into reality. Like I have this Wacom Cintiq that has its own screen. It's like a big old tablet, and drawing that out and mapping out how the shots could work out, especially if it's a shot that doesn't really exist per se yet in a movie that I've seen. It just makes it that much more exciting. So yeah, I open up Photoshop and I just kind of get to work on some 1920 by 1080 size artboards and whatnot. And I draw the scene as I see it in my head. And that, obviously all the way up until production, that can change like in an instant. But I try to start out with some key frames that really just kind of make up my idea so that I don't lose it. Because I could write it and still lose the visual that I had in my head that made me want to make it in the first place.
So speaking of that, speaking about your creativity, right before we started recording, we started talking about this contest that you applied for through Monkeypaw Productions. So kind of go through with us, like, what was it? What did you do, and did anything come out of it?
Yeah. So that challenge, I actually saw it when I was scrolling Instagram just randomly, and it felt like a moment of destiny. Like, oh my God, this is for me. But Monkeypaw Productions had announced that they were starting No Drama, which is like a sci-fi horror screenwriting challenge for filmmakers around the globe that was in collaboration with NBC Universal and the Toronto International Film Festival. So this project just had so many people that instantly got excited about it. It was like, entering a Pokemon tournament or something like that. And everybody who wanted to be a Pokemon master jumped at the opportunity, because I know I sure did. And instantly, like, I opened up Final Draft, my screenwriting software. I opened up everything that I needed to do. So obviously there are these like contractual obligations of like not necessarily talking about what the project is that I did per se, but as far as the things that I can talk about, it's just like how exciting it was to work on it. The rules said that you could work on something that was between 1 to 15 minutes long. I had this project that I was really excited about that was something that I tried to fit within the sort of universe, I guess, of what they typically do there. But it's just also a story that I felt like needed to be told. So there were 3,666 applicants for this, and for me to be one of them, that was like so yeah, I put my heart and soul into the project. I went through a wide range of emotions trying to get things right, and reading and rereading my screenplay, just getting my pitch deck together, or the lookbook rather. The pitch video, there was also a director statement that you had to make. So you had to have this like super like condensed group of elements to just get in the contest to be even considered, and everything had to be right. And there was a lot of this the rules were right there on the website on Film Freeway, which every filmmaker or most filmmakers are really familiar with. So I have never read a documentation more in my life. Like, all those terms of service and everything, like you just kind of scroll down like, whatever, not this one. I read every single thing, and it like down to the wire. Like last day to submit, minutes before I had to submit, I got all of my stuff in. And the reason why it took that long is because screenplay was done, my lookbook was done, my videos were edited and everything like that. I did everything that I could to make sure that those were pristine. And like, I want to say there was like maybe 10 minutes left to submit, and I just had to read the rules again, because my mind was telling me there's something you forgot, there's something. But I checked again and again and again, and like there was nothing that I forgot. If there's something that I forgot, I'm jumping off a cliff. The end of the last episode. That's it. I'm joking, but yeah, I got that submitted, and I kind of left that where it was, and just I said my prayers. I put the good vibes out there, all those things, and just had to have the confidence in myself again. Like, look, Brandon, you did everything that you could. Let it go. Let it be what it will be. What is for you is for you. What is not will pass. Obviously, this year I also wanted to, allow myself to be excited for things too. And that was really big for me. So I allowed this to be one of those things. Like, okay, I know that I gave my all, so I'm gonna be excited that I could be one of the 6 winners of this competition. To get this done and get this chance to be a part of sort of, I guess, like a fellowship, and to get my film made and to show the world what I could do. A huge jump to make for somebody who, doesn't do a whole lot of film festivals at all. But so why not me? And as far as the winners being announced, we won't know until like September or earliest maybe the end of July. But yeah, it's going to be out there. So yeah, and last thing, I made a comment on one of Monkeypaw's pages or posts where Jordan Peele himself was just talking about what they're looking for and what type of movies he loves, and it said something. This was before the contest deadline. It said my post, I'm sorry, said something like, I'm really excited about this. You can guarantee that you'll see my name. Like, look for me. I'll be there come like the deadline. And like 220 something people liked it. I didn't expect that to happen. But I guess a bunch of people either felt like me or just was like, yeah, go ahead. So that felt good. Hopefully I win, and all those people who believed in me will be happy about it.
We're definitely rooting for you. And any way we can support, we
absolutely.
will.
Thank you.
What's crazy about this story is that what I liked about out of all the things you said, I want to do something for me, and not a lot of people get to say that. Not a lot of people have the opportunity to do that. Not a lot of people have the time to do something for yourself. Everyone's worried about what everyone else is doing, and rightfully so. Obviously, we all have lives and we all have where our attention needs to be, but sometimes we forget to do things for ourselves. And it's so awesome for you to kind of like, hey, this festival, this project excites me so much that I'm just gonna go on a limb and just do it. Because that's a lot of people don't do. Like, they think about it. They say, oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe I want to do that. And then it's like, no, forget it. I'm going to just do what I normally do. But you went out there and you decided to put yourself out there, put a lot of work into it. And for all we know, it can turn into nothing. But you won't know that until you actually try.
Right.
So that is awesome that you kind of just took a bet on yourself, did the work, double checked everything, making sure everything was right, and you submitted for this. Whenever you can, I would love to hear. I mean, maybe not now because you're still under the context, the festival rules, but maybe in the time in the future, maybe this might get made. We'd love to hear what you kind of all the work you put into it in the future.
Definitely, absolutely.
But yeah, no, congratulations of just putting in the work, because not a lot of people can say that they did that, and that's something that you did for yourself. So that is well done, sir.
Thank you so much. It truly means the world to me.
With that, we're gonna go into a transition talking about Monkeypaw Productions. There was a movie that they came out with not too long ago that we actually reviewed. And what's great having you on, Brandon, is that we discuss a whole wide range of movies on this podcast. And then when we have you on, is like, we need to talk to Brandon. We got to catch up with Brandon on what he's watching too, because like, it's been a minute, and I know he's going to have something to say. So it kind of works twofold. It's like, one, we really want to know your thoughts on a movie we've already seen. It's also a great thing to be like, go check out our review on these movies as well, that you can go check out in previous episodes. I believe this one's 214. But we love to hear your thoughts about Monkey Man.
Yeah. Seeing that in the theater was, for me, like a good, fun decision. I went to go see that one solo by myself. I do that often. And
Same.
as
Same.
yeah,
Join the club.
right. As somebody who loves like martial arts itself, but also martial arts that is in movies with well choreographed fight scenes, as well as having kind of like just great cinematography combined with that. I thought Monkey Man was a fun ride. I've seen things like The Raid Redemption and the sequel. I've seen The Man from Nowhere, which I was really happy to see that Dev Patel said he was inspired by.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like a lot of what people would call, I guess, beat 'em up movies or fantasy movies and all of that. So I thought that Monkey Man, coming, I guess, under Dev Patel's directorial debut, I think, was like I think that was sort of like a great first film for him to direct, especially with so much action. With action movies, I usually I don't know if I should say judge them, but like I hold them to a standard of like, okay, show me something I haven't seen before. And Monkey Man, I think it did that in terms of like its story, and kind of throwing you into the culture that they had to show. And also, even in some of the fight scenes, there's one where I think he ends up in a brothel, and there's a fight that breaks out in there, and it's like really close quarter combat, and like this dude has, I think, like an axe, and it felt like you were like on the shoulder of some type of like war journalist or whatever like that, with all the fight scenes. It felt really intense, and for a person who has seen The Raid Redemption, I'm sure you'll like that all the things that it does, because it feels like it could be The Raid Redemption's cousin or exist in the same universe. Funny enough, they mentioned John Wick in the movie.
They did, yeah.
Where like you like this gun? It was the one that he had. So yeah, Monkey Man. I can't go and say like it's the greatest beat 'em up movie of all time, but it is stylistic in a way that I really enjoyed, and it does have heart in a way that I felt was earnest or honest. And I was pretty impressed with Dev Patel's ability to kind of shift from doing like the drama to full-fledged fighting violence, and kind of just like his inspiration, The Man from Nowhere. I think that they as a team did a good job with that. One thing that kind of attached my heart more to the project was him just talking about all that he went through. He was like, all these studios said no. We broke cameras trying to get this stuff done. We had so many takes trying to make sure that we got this stuff done. And then you see the movie, and it's like, oh, they've got some good stuff in here.
Yeah, exactly.
My favorite shot in the movie, all of the movie, and this shot is in the trailer. He's standing in the crowd, and there's a bunch of these signs that are, I think, in support of or in protest, I can't remember, of this like mogul or guru or whatever that it ends up being like the main antagonist of the film, and somewhat. And that shot stands out to me like it could be a painting and you could hang it up. That I know that there's a lot of great stylistic choices in that film, but that one it really hit me in the heart, because once you know his character's story, that one just is like, okay, you watch movies like Ong Bak with Tony Jaa, The Man from Nowhere, The Raid Redemption. I know I keep mentioning these, but like you could see the influences directly in that film, even like with The Protector and whatnot. And it's just more of that, please.
Yeah, I think one thing that Ernesto and we talked about was like the amount of respect that we have for Dev Patel for even making this movie, and the also just how great Jordan Peele is as C and I, because this movie was originally supposed to go to Netflix, and he was like, this movie, I've seen this movie, and this movie deserves to be in theaters. And so just like a good marriage between the two with Monkeypaw and this movie, I feel like it was a coincidence that it was called Monkey Man, but maybe that was part of the appeal of that as well. Who knows? Maybe. But yeah, I just like a huge amount of respect for Dev Patel to coming out of his shell and making the movie that he said he wanted to make, and hopefully he can do more like this.
And some of it was shot on an iPhone. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah, like go ahead and get that Soderbergh, feel in there.
But that goes to show you, like, it's really just about getting the story out. Like, whatever you need to do to get the shot, to make your point across. Like, it clearly, like, you don't need to have, I'm sure like an Ari Alexa, like, top of the line, I'm sure, or a Black Magic. Like, those cameras are beautiful and they're great in their own right, but there's something to be said about whatever you need to do to just capture the shot on whatever medium that will give you what you need.
Especially for those high octane fight choreography scenes in close quarter environments like a stairwell.
Absolutely.
It's like, I wouldn't be flipping an RALX there.
As like, an iPhone on a gimbal would do just the job
exactly.
right there.
Yeah, exactly. Especially like those car driving shots and stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. And now I do want to take a pivot. Another movie that came out somewhat recently is Civil War. And I know you saw that as well. Let's hear your thoughts on that. And you want to hear our full review on that, so 215. But you want to hear Brandon's thoughts here.
Look, if there's ever been like an example where you can tell somebody that horror can exist in sound design,
good point.
Civil War is it. I have not heard. I don't think I've ever heard gunshots in a movie theater from the screen and the speakers that shook me to my core like that, because I didn't see Heat in theaters. In fact, I was one of the people who was like super late on the greatness of Michael Mann's Heat. I'm sorry if you guys don't like it and you happen to think it sucks, but I thought that was incredible. Like Civil War, that was one where I was just shocked every time a picture was taken. And that black and white flashes on the screen. I think all the pictures are in black and white in there. And it just kind of sits with you, and it just kind of like it eats away at your soul in a way that's like, or not eats away. It kind of, because there are some tragic things.
Yeah, no, it does.
It's effective storytelling. Like, just the way that the stylistic how they show you everything. I felt like Alex Garland did a perfect job of like really putting you in the seat of a war journalist.
Yes. Yeah. Because, man, like the things that they went through and the things that they saw, it definitely feels like you had an extra seat in their van or truck or whatever, or like you were behind even the junior journalists that they tagged along with them and whatnot. And you were seeing what they saw, feeling what they felt, especially when Mr. Plemons entered the scene in that movie. And that's
chills.
Arguably one of the best scenes of the film.
Right. There are, like, I feel like on one hand, I can count the times that I was genuinely afraid for some main characters in a movie. TV shows like Game of Thrones is like, okay, everybody dies in here. Walking Dead, don't have a favorite character. But movies, you're like, okay, this person's got the plot armor. They're going to be okay.
They're gone.
No.
Not when Jesse Plemons is on the screen. You're like, you're on your edge of your seat, especially with that scene. You're like, you don't know where this is gonna go. Like, you really don't.
He is a walking bad omen as a character in movies. So, I thought Civil War was great. It's one of those movies that I guess I'm careful to call movies brave, but that one was brave because you like a lot of people kind of want you to take sides and make your movie directly about what side to be on and everything. And that one, while it in some cases you could interpret it as that, it kind of it takes you and shows you what's there and say, this is what it is. This is what's happening. This is what people are doing to each other. And that's the story. You're a journalist too by looking at this and seeing what's happening through the lens.
Yeah, I think it did a good at staying apolitical, like really kind of walking the line, which is in theory what all journalists should be. You should be walking that center line, looking over at both sides with one eye open, not really, not placating to one or placating to the other or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they made a really smart move of following journalism. Yeah. That was your through line in there. They didn't really get bogged down by what was happening in the world. They just, as a viewer, you were just told, this is what's happening. It's already here. They just plopped you in and like, try up because we're already here.
I'm glad you said that too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
to. No, go ahead. No, keep going.
Because it also showed, I guess, journalists or war journalists, whatever, in a light of like, man, you usually see these movies and you see the soldiers having to be the tough ones that have to soldier on after somebody just died next to them. But Kirsten Dunst, like, her character, it was just like she was like, "Hey, this is it. You know, this is the job, and this is why I don't want you, a kid, being a journalist and being out here because it gets real." Even though she has her own moment in her own mental state of kind of being shell shocked, sort of, or you know, dealing with some PTSD out there. It shows them in the light. It's like, hey, you know, like soldiers aren't the only people that end up dealing with like the pain of what they've seen, what they've done, or experienced, and that was really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's. I mean, in some cases, some of those scenes were kind of hard to watch, or just to, or even so, just hard to like comprehend of the level that they had to go through in those scenes. To your very point, a lot of people associate PTSD with soldiers, but it literally can just be anyone in a war setting. It doesn't have to be soldiers. So you're right. They did paint that picture, and it was a grim one. Don't get me wrong. It was very, very grim.
Oh yeah.
But man, was it effective storytelling.
Yeah.
And speaking of storytelling, there's one more thing that I want to talk to you about, and that is a show that had just wrapped up, and a lot of people were talking about it, and that is of course X-Men 97. So I'm gonna first say this is that Ernesto has been telling me to watch this show for weeks now.
Yes.
Like I just want to put that out there. Put that first. He's been telling me to watch this show for weeks, and I said, I'll get to it. Don't you worry, Ernesto. I'll get to it. And then once I started, I could not put it down. I literally binged all of it within a matter of 2 days. Good TV. Good TV. But Brandon, I want to hear your thoughts on X-Men 97.
First of all, I'm jealous that you didn't have to wait, because the willpower of steel in not joining the hype in the minute the show dropped.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh man, excellent screenwriting for, you know, animation, but just as a superhero story in general. Like, this is what I'll speak for everybody who's been in love with the Marvel Cinematic Universe since it started, even before the Disney acquisition. Like these are the superhero stories we want to see, and this is how you prevent what people have been calling superhero fatigue. Like, I'm not of the camp that likes to pretend that superhero fatigue isn't a thing. Like, we were getting tired of superhero movies that sucked.
Yes.
Like, we were tired of superhero movies that were soulless husks of what they should have been. And X-Men 97 just outclasses most of the superhero movies that have come out in the past decade on both sides of the coin for Marvel and DC. You get stories like this, you get stories like The Boys and Invincible, and it starts to show you what superhero stories could and should be when they are on the screen. Real people problems, because people problems are things that everybody can relate to, whether you've got superhero powered heroes or not. X-Men 97 recognizes, and it respects the intellect of the audience that it should be catering to, which are the people who saw X-Men 92, who are grown-ups now. So it's just like, oh, this is great. Because at first that was my concern when I first fired up X-Men 97. I was like, I don't really know if I want to see something that's like, you know, the kiddie stuff. I've seen that. I want something a little bit more dark. And I'm like, oh, somebody just died.
Like a horrific death.
Yeah, like they're talking about grown-up matters here, like relationships that characters are in, a love triangle here and there. So yeah, outstanding screenwriting, outstanding voice acting, some great animation that I wanted to see Marvel kind of go in the direction in with stuff, because I personally was not the biggest fan of Marvel's style of animation in the past for certain things, especially like, you know, their animated films, not talking about like stuff that's been recently like Marvel, Sony, Spider-Verse, blah, blah, blah. But this, they updated it in a way that still respects X-Men 92's animation, kind of still, you know, retaining that style or that feel, that look, you know, while giving glory to characters who sorely needed it. I'm talking about Cyclops.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Putting, you know, characters who are kind of always in the forefront in the back and showing how strong they could still be as a supporting character. I'm talking about Logan. You know, and then really just making more people care about Gambit and showing the gravitas in even a more mature and just, I don't think anybody has written Magneto for the screen like these screenwriters have. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved why does his name escape me in the X-Men
Ian
First Class
McKellen.
movies?
Oh no, James McAvoy.
No,
Michael Fassbender.
Who played Magneto?
Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender.
God, went through all of them.
I loved his portrayal. I love Sir Ian McKellen's portrayal of Magneto, but never have I been moved like this by an actor at all, because voice actors are actors who played Magneto. Especially in the Genosha episode 5, I think it was, when he said, "Do not be afraid" in Jewish, and that was, man, that crushed me when he looked back at the people who believed in him and couldn't save him. Spoiler alert, sorry.
Now,
no, I think we can since most of us have, with the exception of the last episode, because Ernesto hasn't seen it yet.
Okay, gotcha.
I think at this point we can talk openly about up until the last episode. I would say, because we have a lot to discuss.
We'll put a disclaimer that when we talk X-Men 97, that we're going to be speaking mild spoilers about the show.
Mild spoilers, yes.
What I will say is I think that they just have a great deal of respect for the true content of the characters. And Brandon, you kind of touched on it a little bit. I mean, finally giving Cyclops the badass power set that he's supposed to have. Where I felt like in X-Men 92, like, he was there, but then like in this one, you truly see why he is the leader, because he is like he's like top tier mutant. Like, he's just a badass with his powers, like his strategy, like being raised under Xavier. And then what I really loved is them taking the time of him coming to terms of like trying to be a family man, understand of like making the choice of like being a family man or being the leader of the X-Men, but that if you do both, that something is gonna suffer on one end. And we see that with, Cable having to go to the future and then creating the future that is Cable, because he was affected, because they sought him out as the son of the leader of the X-Men, and it was just different things like that. I mean, Gambit, episode 5 was just ruthless. Like I was like, what happened? We were happy 5 minutes. We were happy like a minute ago. Like, what is happening right now?
What's crazy about that episode is, one, unfortunately, that part did get spoiled for me. I did know, again, spoiler alert, that Gambit was gonna die in that episode. So that part I knew. I just didn't know how. I knew that he died in this episode. I knew something grim was coming as I was watching it, but I didn't know the context of what was going in. And so when I have that in my thought process, and like you see how that episode was set up, for them to ultimately just pull that under the rug of like, here is everyone happy and what was the place called again? Genosha. They're all having a good time. They're trying to make this place a better, they're trying to make this area a better place. And all of a sudden, like, Cable comes out of nowhere, and he was like, "I'm sorry," and you're like, "You're about what?" And then,
yeah,
like, it's just destruction out of nowhere. And then you have this, so like at the time you were just focusing on like the three-way drama that he was having between Rogue, Gambit, and Magneto, and it's like, this is what the episode is. And then it turned into, it's not. That's not what this episode is.
Like, at all.
And then and all of a sudden we have this badass action sequence of like, it's not of the X-Men. It's just the three of them and a few other people, but like just the three of them, like just going at it. It's like, so between the three of them, they can take down whatever threat there was. They didn't even need all the X-Men to do that. But like, for all that to happen and then commit, so far as a time, they have committed to Gambit dying. And I was like, good for you for doing that, because like that holds so much weight, and like there's so much respect for this character. Now, you said it best, Brandon, when you said that like they're putting these characters out in the forefront and giving them their moment to shine. Who knew? Like, most people think it's Wolverine and then the X-Men.
Yeah.
And Wolverine took a huge backseat in this series. Like a huge backseat.
Which is fine.
And which is fine. And they gave like literally the first episode of Cyclops and he's like they go into this facility, and he's like psh, 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 and he's like making
Just like that.
he's making quick lines, and he's like, and then I forgot, like they took off his visor. He's like, oh no, like I can't see, and he goes, not, and I was like, what kind of joke is that? And he just pulls the visor back on. And he's just blasting everyone left and right. He's like, this guy looks cool. What happened, James Marsden? That's not cool. Like you didn't make him cool. This is cool. And then when he comes from the helicarrier or whatever they call it, the X-wing or whatever, that's Star Wars. But when he comes off of the aircraft and then like they're all falling, and then all of a sudden you like everyone's falling, the X-Men's doing their thing, and then you hear the na 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 as they're falling down, and then he blasts his way on the ground to secure his landing. I was like, Cyclops is a badass.
Yes, he is.
Look at him go. I will say though that I feel like that I do have a lot of love for this series as well as a lot of respect. I didn't grow up with this series, and I think the one knock that I do have for it is that because I didn't grow up with it, and I did watch like a few recaps on it, it was hard to keep up because it moved fast for me. Like there were a lot of things that were going on. Like 1 minute, like we find out that you know Jean is having a baby and the baby was born, and we're having these intimate moments, and then the next episode Jean's a clone and Sinister is doing all this. Like wait hold on, wait a minute, we just had a baby, hold on, what do you mean Jean's a clone, what do you mean that's not Jean? And then like it just never let its foot off the gas, and I feel like some of these story beats moved a little too quickly for me, but it did such a good job at doing all of it. I do think that the Storm stuff, the Storm and Jubilee, like they had that video game episode, which felt really random to me. And then the Storm stuff, when she lost her powers, really brought back. Like I think it slowed down the show for me. But Ernesto, did you feel any of that as well? Like, did you feel like some certain episodes kind of brought it back a little bit and could have focused, like continuing focusing on the main story?
Well, to me, like episode 4, because the Jubilee episode was like episode 4, and I think it was like the last of like the series, because the first 4 episodes are very serial. It's like monster of the week, setup, like execution, and whereas that one I could see what you're saying, but I felt like they did that because you get the older version of Jubilee, and then actually it's the original voice actor of Jubilee talking to the newer actress of Jubilee. So I felt like that episode was just to like a good cameo callback episode. And it was fine, but I see what you're saying. Like, because during that time, maybe we could have gotten some of the setup for the Madeline Pryor, Jean Grey stuff. Like we could have, even within that episode, we could have gotten little snippets of other things that were happening. But I mean, I loved it so far. Like, I mean, and I'm stuck on the penultimate episode, which the ending for that, I was like, what is going to happen to Logan? Like, what is happening right now?
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. That was like literally, it's like the final shot of it, and then it goes to credits. I was like, people had to wait a week for this. I feel so bad for them. Yeah. Anyway, next.
Wow, that sucks. Next episode.
That sucked. Next episode.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that was a thing where it's just like, okay, I haven't done all of my homework of reading all the X-Men comics or like, revisiting X-Men 92 all the way and watching that all the way. But there were certain things I caught where I was just like, oh wait, that storyline happened at this time, and and they're kind of merging like different storylines from different comics runs and whatnot, and other episodes that you can kind of see that there's sort of doing their own thing in still an exciting way, so that it's not like, oh, this person read all the comics, so they know exactly what's going to happen next and when, and they could spoil it for everybody. It's like, no, they could tell you what era this is from or what comic this thing is from. They can't necessarily tell you spot for spot what's going to happen on the next episode, which I think is great because that's what The Walking Dead had done up until a certain point.
Yeah, and also you mentioned Magneto, and I never felt for him so much ever in any of the live action movies that he's done. It's like this iteration of Magneto, I was instantly drawn in of like, Xavier told me to run this school, and he actually tried. Yes. Like he, no matter how much history that he had with him, he respected Professor X so much that he's like, I'm gonna to give in his final wishes of trying to run the school, and he actually gave it an honest try. And so then when the what's the name again? The Genosha?
Yeah.
Was that Genosha? Okay. When that got destroyed, you felt for him.
Yeah.
You 100% knew exactly where he was coming from, and you don't blame him for a second. To be like, he said, I try to level with you. They even did that when he went to court. He's like, I submitted, I did everything you wanted to. Look what happened, and then look what happened to Genosha. Like, and then he's, as soon as they let him go because she felt bad and let him free. I was like, do what you got to do, man. I'm with you. Like, I would have been Rogue and Firestorm. I would have went right up to her with you. Like, yep, this man said some stuff, and I trust him. Where were you at Professor X? Yeah, okay, I see you. I'm gonna go with Magneto over here because he's making some sense at the moment. But like, you get it, and I don't think there was ever a moment in the movies where like you were supposed to be on Magneto's side. Maybe there are a few on some of the like the original trilogy, but realistically, like he's like, it was this show that made me be like, you know what, Magneto has a point. Maybe he's on to something.
Magneto was right.
Yeah.
He was right.
Well, it's just excellent writing. Like really understanding what the core value of Magneto's character was, and I think just X-Men in general, because X-Men in general was born out of like the civil rights movement. Like it's, and like there's a lot of correlations with the LGBTQ community. Like they're supposed to represent outsiders of society and what they can do to be integrated in. And it's like, we have these amazing powers, but you will always see us as different. And it's like playing off of that, whereas this is, mutants are obviously not a human story, but the essence of what they're trying to get across is so relevant to us as human beings, which is why I think the story, like, it's nobody's really talking about, like, they're talking about like the cool stuff and the cool mutants, but most of it is about the inner relationships between all the characters. It's all the good, it's just all the excellent writing of the story that they built up, less about the cool mutant shit.
Yeah. And honestly, for me, this is a great indication of what Marvel can do with the X-Men characters. They say that this is its own standalone thing and it has no ties with the MCU. And I really love to believe them, but I'm calling you out, Marvel. I'm calling your bullshit right now. I feel like in some way, we might not get it exactly like we're going to see this in a live action format, but I think this is just Marvel playing with these characters, coming up with a really interesting way to like put X-Men on the screen by putting the Marvel stamp on it, but not giving us live action. Like they took a series that was already tried and true, and then like when we're gonna update it, we're going to give it some updated, we're going to update the animation, but we're going to keep the storytelling as rich as possible. And if this is just a small taste of what they can do with the X-Men in an animated format, and we know they're getting more when more seasons are coming, I can only imagine how they're going to treat the live action stuff, as well as like even looking forward in a couple months to Deadpool and Wolverine. This is for them a great opportunity to even play with at least some of the X-Men that they haven't been doing in these last couple of years for multiple reasons. But now we're finally getting it, and it's like, if it can be this good for animated, I can't wait to see what you do next with live action. But yeah, X-Men 97, what a great show. Ernesto, we'll talk more when we finish it to see what's moving forward with the series. One last thing, I do love how they're not part of the story, but they keep cutting to it. Like all the different Marvel superheroes that just keep popping up.
Little side cameos.
Yeah, and they're like, there's no words except for Captain America. He had a line, but they're like nonchalant, just showing Spider-Man swinging, like reacting to the stuff that's happening out there. And then you see Daredevil with cloak and dagger. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And then all of a sudden Morph is just going into all these different characters, and he went into Hulk, and he went into there's a whole bunch of other ones. And then Juggernaut, and I was like, when did Juggernaut get here? It's like, damn it, it's Morph again, you son of a bitch. And yeah, what a great job, really focusing on the X-Men, and also, like, to Brandon, to your point, giving a lot of characters who were kind of sitting in the sidelines for all these years, giving them their moment to shine. And hopefully a lot of people can see this show, and and then moving forward, Marvel will take inspiration of what they've been doing with animated and then take it to live action and give us maybe the X-Men movie we all wanted to see all these years.
Missed opportunity if they didn't.
Yes, you're telling me. I mean, honestly, all eyes for me are on Deadpool and Wolverine, and then the next set of eyes are moving over to the Fantastic Four. Yep. So you got to nail it, because if you don't, it's a long road for you, Marvel. Yeah. So with all of that, that is all we've been wanted to discuss with you, and kind of what we've been watching as well. So with that, we're going to be diving into our spoiler review of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, directed by Wes Ball, who did the Maze Runner trilogy. And I do find that this is an interesting transition from what he's done, and now moving over to the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So Brandon, you are our special guest. What were your thoughts on the film?
I felt like it was a spectacular achievement of visual effects and CGI. Story-wise, there's something there, especially towards the end, to see where it's going. They're like, okay, we're definitely making like a sequel to this, and maybe even like a third film. And for something that's kind of supposed to be its own thing, like, okay, it's centuries later, Caesar gone, his son definitely gone. The apes don't live that long. This is an entirely new set of, I guess, people and apes and everything like that we're dealing with. We're showing you that, moss and grasslands have grown over entire cities. I thought that was really interesting. So like, this film wowed me, like, not so much by its story as it did by its visual effects, because even the ones where Andy Serkis was doing the mocap, and they had a whole team of actors who were doing the mocap, and the stuff that they did with, I think the first one that was in the line of Caesar Sings, and they had them kind of walk around with these kettleballs and whatnot. To see what they were doing then in the James Franco era, in that saga, to see what they can do now is mind-blowing stuff. And for them to tell a story with sort of all new characters, I thought that it was kind of like a bold decision and direction to be able to show Caesar become sort of this like god to the apes, that they kind of rely on his words and, his, I guess, prophecy and his hopes. While some of them are like, yeah, I don't believe that stuff. Humans and apes, they're not going to get along. We can't do this. Humans are always going to try to, put us back in cages and whatnot. And there I was kind of like, how do I feel about this? Because, obviously, like, viewing this and knowing like a bit of history and knowing how, we talk now, it's like, okay, we've got discussions in politics and in society of just like, oh, what's okay to talk about? Can we talk about history? Can we really tell history in the way that like it really happened, outside of nationalism and everything? And then we see this girl that these apes kind of are at odds with at first, and then they start to trust her, and then they end up in this like classroom or whatever that's inside the bunker, and then they see like these little like children's books or whatever that's even still depict the apes in cages. So you couldn't just draw them like outside of it having fun. But and so they discover what was the nature of their reality when humans were like the dominators of the planet, and there were billions more of them. And so they go, yeah, we're not going back to that. I thought that was like a nice way to cook up what's to come for, if there's going to be another big war between, apes and humans, because obviously Caesar's dream is the bubble here. And, if it's growing further apart than what he wanted it to be, then that means that humans are choosing their side, apes are choosing their side. They can't trust each other. They're going to continue to fight. And in the movie, you see that bubble shrink a little bit closer towards what the dream was for Caesar. And then it kind of just blows up again and again. And when you realize that, okay, humans are, obviously not going to allow ourselves to go extinct. But the apes also are going to keep encroaching on what supposedly was human territory, and they want what the humans had. They want humans to share that, and it's not going to happen. So yeah, Planet of the Apes didn't really win me over as like a movie that I felt like I had to go to the theater to see, but I'm still glad that I did. If that makes sense. Yeah, I'm a big VFX guy, and this is one where I was thoroughly impressed by what they pulled off, but I just wish they told a stronger story.
Interesting. Okay, Ernesto, your thoughts?
It's interesting you say that, because I feel the exact opposite. Like I'm gonna be honest, like, and I absolutely loved this movie. I just thought it was, for me, it was a little long. To me, the setup about the Eagle Clan in the beginning was a little muddled. That part could have been fleshed out better. But I think the idea of viewing Caesar has become this like Jesus like character, because he is the first one. He is the first ape that brought upon this whole like almost subspecies of apes. And now generations later, kind of like Telephone, how his word has been perverse through different clans, and how they and how interesting enough, Owen Noah, the main ape in this movie, where his clan doesn't even really know about Caesar. Like, so actually the three main apes gave us three different point of views, whereas Noah, they didn't know anything about Caesar, and we get Kevin Durant's character, Proximus, where he is almost related to like a very biblical story, where he is a false prophet, where he is taking Caesar's word and perverting it to his own gains, but using it in a way, dictating it in a way where it seems like what he's doing is justified. Oh, well, I'm just collecting all the other apes and getting rid of their villages so that you can come help me build my ape kingdom. And in his own perverted way, he saw that he was making sense. So to me, like I was able, just being able to resonate another villain, like, we were talking about villains who you can resonate with, like you could almost see his point of view, and like how you can see how he got there. Like, oh, well, I need to get in there and I need to build this kingdom so that we can not happen to us what, we don't want to be put back in cages. Like Proximus is very smart. Like we have William H. Macy, who's been like reading him, like whatever. He's reading him all kinds of stuff, like old history books. So, he's an intelligent ape. So he understands on the level like Caesar or even Noah. Noah is highly, highly intelligent. He always told him, you're a very capable ape, where, there's some fan theories that Noah may be a descendant of Caesar, and there might be some truth to that. I can see that being a plot line being flushed out, where
I wouldn't be surprised.
Especially
it seems pretty easy to do that.
Especially since there are certain points where we've really emphasized talking about Caesar, and I thought that was important. Like so you have this word that you're supposed to live by, but then you're hearing two different sides of it, and we meet his friend who what was his character's name?
Can't remember. The orangutan?
The orangutan.
Oh,
Raka. Where Raka is really following the true word of Caesar. Like where he really is a prophet. Like he fully lives the true word of Caesar, and he follows his guide, and we see him bestow those teachings on him, and how Noah like really takes it in and honors what he's being taught. I mean, he's taking all this information in after these other apes burned his whole village down. I mean, I just thought that was a great scene, and just kind of showcasing that when people get into groups and they have power, just what they are willing to do to the people around. I know we're talking about apes, but I think the correlation is meant to be similar, that as conscious beings, that these are the types of things that we are going to encounter as we can let our societies continue to grow. And to me, it just really hit to like see us hit this kind of story. I thought it was a bold choice, but for me it worked, because a lot of the movie spends time honoring the original trilogy, talking about the significance of Caesar. I mean, literally the movie opens almost like an epilogue to the first three films, where they kind of tell you about Caesar, and it starts with his body being burned, kind of like honoring him and kind of setting the stage for this ape society. I don't know, it made a lot of sense to me. And like the CGI I thought was really good. Kevin Durant, who played Proximus, he did an interview with the Hollywood Reporter, and he kind of, and it's a really good interview if you have a chance to read it, but he talks about that. He talks about as Hollywood actors behind villains, we have to do. They found a way to defend Kevin's point of view. He knew that apedom would end up in cages. They end up on plates, being eaten. They'd be slaughtered. They would be experimented on in laboratories, and by any means necessary, as quickly as he could, he had to do what he had to do. Duran explains. He had to get all the apes of the land to his kingdom so that they could achieve this goal of getting this information, speaking about the weapons and the technology that he knew was inside of this vault. He didn't enjoy what he had to do, but he just doesn't have a choice. He sees it as something that needs to be done in order for apedom to reach the next level of I guess like the next pinnacle of ape civilization.
Evolution.
That would be the next step in the ape evolution, because we've already seen in previous movies that they know how to use these weapons, but now it's having access and having somebody truly show hordes of different apes collectively how to use it for the means that they want. And I think we're going to see that, because at the end of the movie we get the female's name.
They're at like SETI or whatever.
I was just saying with her, when we have that standoff at the end, when they open the vault and she shoots at one ape, showcasing to all these apes what the humans are capable of. And I thought that was just another layer that they added, that I just appreciated that they added on there, of showing like he spent all this time trusting her and they went through all these things together, but in the end there was still something like where she doesn't even really trust him. And you even see it in their final encounter where they're speaking and they're going to part ways, but yet she's holding the gun around her back, almost like
such a
very subtle, like
move.
very subtly mentioning that, like, yeah, we're cool right now, but let's not get it twisted. Like, the point is for the humans, to get back on top, which we saw. I mean, they reached their next step of evolution where they're all reconnected via satellite. That's going to be a huge win for the human civilization. So I'm intrigued to see where it goes next, and if this is anything like what the original series is like. And I'm not talking about the 2000s where it's the Mark Wahlberg or the three with Andy Serkis. I'm talking about late 60s, early 70s. Like, I wonder, like, yeah, maybe the technology wasn't there, but maybe the story is within those, because there's like, I think I looked up, there's like 5 of those original movies.
Yeah. There's even a weird one that's like Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which is one that I haven't seen, but I saw some screens from then and was like, huh.
Like granted, it's not going to be, I don't think, obviously the technology or the production design won't be anything to it is now, but there's something to be appreciated about those movies, because they didn't have that. They tend to focus a lot on the story.
Yeah, and that's what's most important. And like that's with this one, it's just like, it might not be like my top favorite one, but it's definitely something that I respect. I knew from the start, before I went to go see the movie, that it was going to be one to set up like the others, and that's where I think like the real strength of the movie itself, or the film itself, comes through, because like I got excited when they showed why she took the drive, like, and who she took it to. These people are still wearing hazmat suits to deal with people who are outside. She just walks up in like her like day clothes or whatever, passes on the drive and goes about her day to something and someone else. And one thing that I don't know, I'll probably have to go see it again. Like they were at the SETI site, I think, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence or something like that, because they had these big old satellites. I'm not sure, I know that they can be anywhere, but like, and they get into contact with somebody. I'm like, okay, is he like in orbit, or is he on the planet, and that's just the way that they're using this broadcast, this way to communicate with each other? Because Planet of the Apes, but judging by the past movies, can get weird. Like, and then we see it was either her or Caesar, I can't remember, who got to that observatory that had the big telescope, and I'm like, okay, what are they looking at? Are they trying to say that this is gonna be a war to get to space so that the apes can get their own planet? They can get Mars, or it's been 200 years or a couple centuries. Like, interesting things can happen on planets. I think in terms of astrophysics, though, you would need like 1 billion years for like Mars to get better in terms of its atmosphere. It doesn't really have one because it's constantly pelted by cosmic rays. And theorized that I think its molten core stopped spinning or whatever, and all these other kinds of things. So it can't necessarily be like Earth. But like if for whatever reason in the Planet of the Apes universe, they already had people who landed on Mars and made bases and whatnot. I don't know how much space they mentioned in the James Franco ones, but if these apes get on a shuttle, I might be mad, but I'm gonna be so intrigued because I don't want it to get to a point where it's like Fast and the Furious level, like insanity. Yeah. But I would be really impressed and interested in seeing just how far the apes evolve to understand man-made technology and use it potentially better than humans did. And to show, like, if they do like some massive time jump at the end of the third one, like, yep, this is where the apes ended up. They ended up making their own thing, and then a billion years passed instead of a couple centuries, and this is what became of them, and humans were extinct. That's very dark, but I'd be really interested in that. So yeah, I'm not dunking on this movie at all. It is a good movie, and it is like a brave new installment to set off like a new saga. I don't know. There's also the other thing too, where it's like, okay,
it's okay if you don't like it. That's fine.
No. Like, I hope I don't make anybody mad in saying this, but it's the internet, so people get mad at it anyway.
Yeah, we know.
When you have a human character who is white and is doing all the things that anybody who's listed as other would expect a white person to do in self-preservation. It's like, oh, okay, I've seen this movie before. I've seen this reality before. I know what this girl's gonna do. I know she's gonna betray these apes. Like, this girl is gonna do what any white person would do in this scenario. Any person really, but it's just like, especially if we're talking about like, okay, these apes are like, oh, she's gonna take our land. She's gonna stop us from, or these people are gonna stop us from like being who we need to be and having rights. It's just like this. Okay, like. Clearly, like, okay, let the apes get their hands on any social studies subject textbook, and they're gonna see like, oh wow, oh geez, they did what to
yeah.
what?
to your point, Brandon, it wouldn't put it past me if I also did not quickly see the correlations with what you're saying within this movie. I was like, oh well. All right, I think we're there. I think we're alluding to a few things, but I will say that in that scene though, when like she at the very end when she was like, "Hey, we're just trying to get some mutual respect here," and then they cut to her having the gun behind her back. I think I audibly yelled like, "Damn!" Anyone see that?
Like, just immediately. Okay, like, James Smith, John Smith.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh my god!"
You're not even trying to hide
it. Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I know the point I just made, but I would probably have grabbed a strap myself too. Like I would have.
I don't know why we tripping. Like you're the only human around all these apes. Oh yeah, we're just gonna trust each other. No. One of you will rip me apart. Like
exactly. It would eat the skin off my face. I'm grabbing the gun. So, I want to just make it about like a skin color thing. Like I don't blame her on that. I do feel like though in saying that, it always makes me wonder in movies like, oh, what would this other character do if they were in these shoes? If they, and don't get me wrong, like it's set like centuries later. These people probably have no idea what it was like in the days before the nuances of like American society. But I can't help but wonder. It's a movie that I could see myself seeing again just to pay more attention to certain layers and also kind of feed my sort of fan theories of what might come. Because I especially want to see the last 30 minutes again to sort of get ahead of the game and see where they do or where they might plan to go, because my head instantly went to this is going to be a war over a space shuttle and some guns or something like that, and somehow somebody's going to get to space.
Well, to your point, I mean, I know that Proximus had said that like these humans before us, like he's very well known, and so like he's well versed first. He's very smart, like Ernesto said. And so he even made a comment in the movie. It was like, the humans before us, they flew, they communicated from miles away. Like he knew that he could be better. He knew that inside the vault was at least some of the capabilities that could have done that. And Nova / May, I think the orangutan called her Nova, and then she originally said her real name was May. She knew exactly what was in there. And she didn't want the apes anywhere near that technology. And her character is very interesting to me because in some ways you kind of want to be on her side, but at the same time, like, whose side are we really going for here? I mean, obviously, we know that Proximus he's our villain. And Noah is our hero, but then you can also see as us as a human, like, of course you want to see the humans back on top. Of course, that makes a bunch of sense.
Put them back in cages.
Yeah.
Let's get back inside of here. I want my chicken tenders again with the barbecue sauce. Let's get a Culver's somewhere out here, a Chick-fil-A.
I need to be able to call an Uber and go to Starbucks
again. What I found really interesting about it, especially following the human angle of it, was that they introduced the humans as like the apes are the apex predator in this particular centuries later, and the humans are kind of like cavemen at this point. And they introduced her as like just a scavenger. It's like, oh, she doesn't understand you, she's just hungry. And then they even drove that point home with we saw the zebras at the watering hole, and then we saw humans kind of slowly walking out. It's like, okay, it's safe. We can go drink some water. It's like, oh, at the time of watching this movie, I felt like this is where the humans are right now, of like they're uneducated and they don't know how to speak, and like they just really reverted back to the caveman era, and the apes are now back on top. Not as much as humans were during the heyday, but like you can see that they're definitely priming the society. They have this eagle clan where they steal eggs and they raise them to their own, which I thought was an interesting touch to it. I do agree with Ernesto that I feel like up until the burning of that clan, it had a slow start. Like, this movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes. We could have shortened it by probably 20 and maybe make that a little bit shorter to make it like a good 2 hour time frame. But whatever, that's nitpicking. But like, to see that the human interaction, all of a sudden she's speaking, and then throughout the movie we see like, wait a minute, she's not just speaking. She's like, she knows a whole bunch of stuff. And then at the end, we see that the human race is not far off. Like, you know, they're pretty capable of like trying to go back to where they were before and trying to communicate with other people. And like, to me, the ending really made a good, exciting, promising new way to push the franchise forward, because at the time, and which I also respected about the movie, was that the first 3 movies are about human versus apes, and apes trying to go and, you know, kind of like the Planet of the Apes. They want to, you know, be dominant. And the end of the trilogy ended so nicely because it committed to that promise. Like, Apes won. Congratulations. The movie's over. Like, the story's done. The story of Caesar is now complete. And to your point, Brandon, they did a really bold choice of continuing this, like, over centuries, years later. And what was nice was that a lot of the movie was kind of like, you didn't really need to know about the original trilogy and the story. You just know that Caesar was that figure, like almost like a Jesus-like figure. And so, like, if you did not know, you just know that he was the person who made this happen. But if you really want to go down and see how it all happened, you have the 3 movies as a reference. But you could really use this as a starting point if you really want to. And I think they did a really good job with the story to kind of, like, the other stuff isn't needed for you to watch this. But also, this is the start of something. So they have to do like the slow build up again. They have to reintroduce characters, reintroduce stories. So like, I feel like this is going to take a minute for us to get back to the exciting stuff that we were getting back in the original trilogy. I wasn't a huge fan of Rise, but I loved Dawn, and I thought Dawn, Planet of the Apes, and War was really good too. So I think that story wise, I really enjoyed like where we ended. Like, the buildup was good, but I think really where like it has a lot of potential of where this movie could go. I don't know if it's going to space. I think they did a really good job with this, like, keeping it grounded. Like, I like the groundedness of it, and I also like that we are threat-worthy apes, the other people in the society, in this world. Like, it wasn't the humans. But now it feels like we're going to go back to the human versus ape storyline. And I thought they brought up a lot of good points within it, as well as dealing with their own problems of like where this franchise can move forward. So I thought the story was good. I do agree with you that at some points we're a little slow. It wasn't the strongest story out there, but given the context of everything that's going on, I kind of give it a little bit of forgiveness there of being like, well, we have a lot of work to do to build back up this franchise. Like you have the original trilogy to go by, and they use that as a reference quite a bit. But really, like at the end of the day, this is the start. This is a reboot of a reboot sequel that you have to kind of reintroduce, lay the foundation, and then kind of go back up from there. But that ending, especially with the score, the score for me was
so good.
Like, especially toward the end, it was like almost like it was uplifting. I was like honestly, it felt like very wondrous. Like we don't know what's going to happen, but it's like this wonder of like where the apes can go, because right now he's forming his own society after, like, he's rebuilding what he lost, and then you have the humans trying to rebuild what they lost as well. And so, like, who will come out on top on that? Or even if that's a story we're going to go upon. Like, there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of endless possibilities this can go down. And so I feel like for me, this movie gave me excitement again into this franchise to see what it can go to. And I loved Rock in this movie. I feel like that's what the movie for me picked up, when he was able to kind of learn, like Noah was able to learn more about Caesar and the way that it was and how he happened, and Rocka was his good figure in. I really hope he's not dead, but I was kind of devastated when he was like, when got whisked away.
He's out of here.
Brandon's like, no,
he was just a driving point for Noah's arc for him to become who he needed to be. That orangutan is out of here.
I agree.
He's
even though I don't want him, even though I was very sad, I was like, did he die? He's actually dead.
And then you also have William H. Macy's character, who is kind of like, no, they won. I'm just gonna do their bidding. I'm okay with that. And we see we have Nova / May, who was really committed on her mission, and I really hope in the next movie we get to learn more about where the humans are. And I feel like this movie was not about that, and it's a good thing. We don't need to know where the humans were in this movie.
You pulled out the jujitsu moves on William H. Macy.
Yeah. it's like, oh, night, and then you just see him throw him in the water.
At the time. It's like, oh, she is dead serious about this mission to save humans. This is very important to her. All right. But to that, like you guys were saying, how it's just like, man, you feel for the apes, but then the human aspect kicks in. It's like, wait, I'm human. What would I do in this scenario?
Right.
Who would I be rooting for? Like, these apes, they're kind of scary. Like they can do a lot like that humans cannot do. And they're learning very quickly. And they have weapons now. They can ride horses. And the humans that can't speak and have kind of gotten set back to the Stone Age in every aspect of the way, they can't really help me much. But the humans that can help me are scientists inside of bunkers that these apes can never learn about, because if they do, that's it for us. I'm one of the last people who are going to contribute to hopefully the rebuilding of mankind as we know it, but the odds are looking slim. What do? I have a pistol and a small rifle that I managed to scavenge from this base that I have now waterlogged. So
I do have a question for both of you. Ernesto, I'll start with you first. But like, do you see, because now we were driving home the message of Caesar wanting, humans and kind of going back into a world where humans and apes could coexist. Obviously, that didn't end up happening, and he ended up being the savior of the ape race moving forward and kind of being dominant. But kind of they touched upon it a little bit as well. As like, do you think the story can go in a way where like there is such a bigger threat out there that the humans and the apes can actually live together? Like, does it have to be a divide? Ernesto, do you think that the story could even go that way and maybe even see?
I think that's where kind of like we need to see the human aspect of this story, because we're already so far out there that we need something to really anchor us to make us really resonate with any of these characters. So I could see it. I would just prefer them not to go that route. I think there's already so many interesting things with humans trying to rebuild societies, apes trying to continue their society, and I think that there's going to be a merge point where we're heading back to this war, but it needs to be different than the original trilogy. So then what does that look like centuries later, with where everybody's at? So I don't want it, but it is probably a possibility.
Brandon, what about you?
Well, this is an outstanding opportunity to make a crossover for the latest Predator movie, Prey. And just kidding.
Hey.
The ship just pulls in, and all the apes look up, and there's like this red beam of 3 dots that comes down, and then you cut to black. That's joking.
What a twist.
I think that, I know space is out there, but like, even if they don't make the goal of like nobody launching into space, but like them having this idealism, like, look, you're not gonna let us have Earth? Fine, then we're gonna take another planet, or either the humans have to run to space. That would be interesting too. It's like, okay, we're not gonna win this war. We can't go anywhere else but up. And I know it's a bad decision. I know that we only have so many spacesuits, but maybe we could go somewhere else and we kind of repopulate and do something else. Like, these apes are really killing us. Like, oh boy. I feel like that would be, this kind of like space race, just for the sense of like, okay, humans are trying to get to space. Apes, for whatever reason, decide to wipe them out because maybe like the violence gets out of hand or some other inciting incident takes place. And so humans don't have any other option, or maybe the still around or whatever. That's why they're wearing hazmat suits, and they're just trying to like get out of there because apes have become so dominant. I don't know. But I just, like you were saying earlier, I do hope that they, even with that, manage to stay grounded, and that the climax to what I'm assuming is going to be a 3-movie, saga.
That's fair to assume, yeah.
Yeah, that it's something so deeply satisfying and thought-provoking where people are talking about it as a cautionary tale even for other things. Because it's like you guys were saying before, like, these are all things about society and who people become when they're in power and when they can pervert religion in order to control masses of people. That's always going to be interesting. That's always going to be something that we find thought-provoking and something that we're going to be talking about for centuries. I want more of that, but to extremes of like, okay, well, this is what happens if it goes all the way left.
Right.
And I hope that they do it in a bold way. Like, you know what? Let Alex Garland, direct the next one. Not that there's anything wrong with Mr. Westball, but like, I really still want to see more bold decisions that make you go wow and send chills down your spine. For instance, and I'll stop talking because I know I can go long.
No.
In the James Franco one, that was Rise, the first one.
Rise, yes, yeah.
Rise. I will never forget being in the theater and Caesar's in that little containment or whatever, and he's beating on his chest, and then he says no.
Yes.
Yeah.
That gave me chills, and I still think about seeing that for the first time, hearing that for the first time, and I've been itching to have a moment like that again in these films.
So I will say it's funny you brought that moment up because so in preparation for this, like I took my 2 oldest boys to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, so we all went together to go see
nice.
it. So in lead up, we didn't watch the third one, but we ended up watching the first 2, and then that exact moment is a moment that we were like, whoa, like it's such a but it's funny that even all these years later that moment still hits the same when you see it, even though you know it's coming and you know it's going to happen. That's just one of those moments in film history that just really hits.
Oh yeah.
But I honestly do agree with you that like I had that wow moment for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes when I felt like that movie as a standalone movie. Like, I liked Rise. I thought Rise was fine, but really for me, Dawn was the one that had that wow moment where it's like the movie started with like the close up of his eye and like of Caesar's eye, like it was a close up, and then we kind of zoomed out a little bit, and then at the very end of the movie, where I forgot exactly what happened, but at the very end, he's like starting this new this clan. They're about to literally go to war, and the movie decides to close back in and end back on his face. And I was like, what a bookend.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a start. Like, what like, to me, I got chills because like I picked it up in the beginning. It's like, and also this was a time when I was really getting to film, so I was like, oh, this is cinema right here. This is storytelling. This is the craft, and that's Matt Reeves like really nailing it. And he did that with War. And one of the big things that I was going into this like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is that Matt Reeves like, no, he's busy with Batman. It's like, all right, who do we got? It's like Wes Ball, the guy from the Maze Runner. I was like, yeah, no. I mean, those movies are fine. Don't get me wrong. It's like
I liked them.
I like them.
Yeah, I like them. I think they're safe. Like I think those movies are like they did their job. It's like it's for me they were easily forgettable. Honestly, like if I go back and rewatch them, it'll be as if I'm watching them for the first time.
I get that.
Because it's like they were good movies from when I watched them and they were entertaining, but they weren't memorable in the way like some other movies are to me. And there was a lot of moments in the Rise of the Planet of the Apes trilogy that really resonated with me. You guys just talked about No, and I just talked about about some of the cinematography that they had. So like there was moments there. And to your point, I do wish that this movie had that. The only thing that I remember, and I probably will remember the most, is Nova/May holding that gun behind her back. And I was like, hold up, wait a minute. Like, I thought that was pretty bold in and of itself. But I do, so far from this director, I have not seen him give me that wow moment. And so if he does continue with this trilogy, and I thought he did a really good job with this. Yeah. Like, I was actually surprised by him as a director. I was like, oh, this was actually pretty solid. I did not expect this. But according to you, Brandon, you were saying that some cases like he played it safe and the story wasn't as strong. So maybe going into the sequel, we can fine tune some of that story and maybe give us some of that bold wow moments that we are looking for moving forward.
I think we'll get them.
Yeah, I give it time. Yeah. And especially he's getting his feet wet with this franchise. We know he can do a trilogy, so let's see. Oh, yeah. I definitely respect him giving him another let's do the next one. I want to see where you're at on that. Very quickly, I do want to talk about the box office, as we typically do with in this summer season right now. And this movie's doing very, very well. Mm-hmm. It hit $58.4 million opening weekend domestically, which was a great solid opening for a movie like this. They said that this is on par with the other movies in the franchise. And then it kind of goes into where it is right now at the time of recording. It hit $100 million domestically within the first 2 weeks, $136 internationally, with a grand total of $237.5 million worldwide, with a budget of $160 million. So needless to say, there is still a need for this franchise. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are saying, do we even need this anymore? The original trilogy was good. It ended strong. Let's not ruin a good thing. But a couple of years later, I mean, I believe the last movie came out in 2019 or 2018. So just about 5, maybe 6 years afterward from the original. That math could be wrong. But even just a short few years later, we get another one, and there's still a need for it. People came to the theater more than they came with The Fall Guy. I'll tell you that. The Fall Guy is struggling right now. And
War came out in 2017.
Oh, 2017. Okay, so even more so. So that was, with quick math, that's 7 years ago. 7 years ago. 7 years ago, yeah. So 7 years ago that movie came out, and it kind of lived there in that little trilogy bubble. But now, 7 years later, people still want to see this franchise move forward. And I think they gave people a good enough reason to go to the theater to watch it, and kind of put life in this franchise. And also the fact that people are going to see this and it's making all the money that it is right now, we're definitely getting more.
Oh, 100%. For sure. Yeah, exactly.
So with all of that, Brandon, we'll go to you. Your final thoughts on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
I liked it. Okay. It's a solid film. I didn't love it per se, but what I did love were, like I said, just the spectacular visual effects and the CGI. There is such a thing as virtual cinematography as well as cinematography. I felt like they nailed every point in every department on that end. I just went in there probably with my expectations too high of like the storytelling to be even more like just heart pounding, type of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. I try not to give movies like scores anymore, but if I did have to score it out of a 10-point system, I guess, after this conversation, I guess I would score it a little higher. I'll probably give it like a solid 7 out of 10. At first I was like, I walked out there and I was like 6.5. But this conversation has helped some things. It helped me revisit some things like, they did do pretty good with that. Let me not be too harsh. But
so
it's one of those.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like as far as like if somebody asked me, is it worth seeing in the theaters? I'd still say yeah. Yeah, I'd say that it's still worth like buying a ticket, go and see it in theaters, especially with your friends, especially with your families.
So would it be safe to say, because we do our rating, we kind of go in par with the letterbox, so it's off of 5.
Mm-hmm.
So would it be safe to say you're sitting at a maybe 3.5? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's solid.
Yeah.
Well,
do you still use your letterbox?
I have been neglecting it bad because I meant to log some stuff, some pretty awesome stuff that I liked, or just stuff that I watched recently. Like I was Arcadian, and I thought that was a pretty interesting and good horror movie for what it was.
Really?
As far as monster design, yeah, it's relatively short, and there were some things in there that inspired me that they did really well. So yeah, that was nice, a nice little rental. Trying to finish Abigail now. Rented that. I also watched. We talked about Ghostbusters Afterlife. I finally watched that and loved it. Quite a few things, that I need to log into Letterboxd. I just got to use my like Apple TV and Prime recently watched Netflix recently watched things and just put them all in there and put my thoughts.
Yeah, you actually got us into Letterboxd. We saw that you were using it quite a bit, and then we were like, "Oh, we gotta get one." So we also have one as well. And so ever since we started using Letterboxd, we've been using, because we also didn't really put a number or like a system to like the rating system, but we figured it works, and we might as well, if we're using, we might as well put it here as well. So we've been going off the 5-star Letterboxd rating on it, but it's good to see you're watching Abigail. Another movie we reviewed, episode 216, I believe. And
Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is also.
I was gonna say, when we were talking about Kevin Durant playing this role in this film, that I'm glad to see him. Like, I don't know if he's been doing other projects, but for me, it's kind of like a resurfacing, because I remember him in Smoking Aces, and then I kind of didn't see him in a whole lot of stuff in between then and now. So excuse my ignorance if he's been like doing a bunch of great Broadway musicals and like other movies and stuff. I just don't know. But like seeing him now in these sort of bigger roles is nice to see him again.
Yeah, especially he's been like what a great month that he's been having for sure. But definitely, I do want to hear your thoughts eventually on Abigail, because we did review it a couple weeks ago, and we enjoyed it. We actually liked it for what it was, as far as a horror movie is concerned. But Ernesto, your final thoughts on the film?
I obviously liked it a lot more than Brandon, which is fine. No, I just really connected with the story, and I think, I don't know, it's just the fact that the movie is when you look at it, you just on first viewing, you're like, well, this is just gonna be like monkey CGI. Like, there's not going to really be much to it, but it's just refreshing to see that there is some really decent storytelling in there that keeps you interested. I mean, the movie's 2.5 hours long, and granted, there are some slow spots in the beginning, but overall, I think, it captivated me for that amount of time. I mean, the CGI is so good that it's like almost invisible. Like I was like, oh, this is like a real place. They really dressed up. Like, oh no, somebody like went in and designed this. But it's just the attention to detail, and I mean the humans, the apes actually look real, and to me that was amazing. And to me, just combined all those things, I think it just wowed me how much better. It's better than I definitely anticipated to be. So I'm gonna go 4 because I have a feeling that Matt's gonna go 4. and not. But even though I'm kind of leaning on a 4.5.
He knows me so
I
well.
do know
I
you.
was going to give it.
I know you.
Well, I was going to give it a 4. But yeah, to your point, Ernesto, though, I also thought it was better than I thought it was going to be, because after coming off of, again, the original trilogy, and I was like, the trailers didn't really hook me on it, and it could have just easily been another cash grab. It's like, hey, this is a popular franchise, we're gonna make another movie about it. But there was some weight to it. There was some. Honestly, I really enjoyed the supporting characters. Like, we had Nova and May, who was complicated. You have Proctimus, who was complicated. You have Raka, who was complicated. I feel like all these different characters were kind of driving our main character, Noah. And I feel like, honestly, they were more interesting than our main character of itself, because he was just a vehicle pressing through and kind of absorbing all this information as much as the audience is.
That's a fair observation.
So with that moving forward, now he's the leader of the clan, because he was able to get all these people back over. Like, now I'm really interested to see how he is as a main character moving forward, and taking all the stuff that he's now learned, because he was kind of naive in the beginning, and very quickly we were like, oh my God, my egg's broken. I gotta go get another egg in the middle of the night for this ceremony that we're about to do. And all of a sudden, 2 minutes later, your village is on fire. So, like, I mean, that scene moved very quickly, and our priorities shifted very quickly as well. There's also some other aspects I liked about it as well. Like, we have like the village, like we have them living in a society in the woods, and the Eagle clan, and then like how separated they were from the rest of the world as compared to Proximus, who had this whole kingdom that he was trying to develop, and like the iron, like metal that was part of like his society. And like you felt that when they're having this nice lavish greenery around and like enjoying life, to like this hard metal feel like prisoners in a way. And so like that juxtaposition that they were having within these scenes and what he was preaching, and for him it made sense, everything that you were saying, Ernesto, about it. So like those characters and like some of the scenes that they set up were really, really good. But I do agree with Brandon, the story could have been stronger, but I think we are like right there to make it something really good moving forward. So like the ending of it for me really brought some excitement. So like, ooh, I like where this is going. I really want to see what we do next with this. So but yeah, I thought the ending really sold it for me, of like really looking forward to see what this franchise does. So as Ernesto predicted, I give it a 4 out of 5. The Fall Guy was a fun movie, but this one is like, okay, now we're in the summer season now, boys. We're here.
Yeah.
So like this is the big budget movie I'm looking forward to. So we have a few more down the line, especially next week when we are discussing the next big budget movie. But anyway, that's our spoiler review on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And Brandon, thank you again for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, just diving in and getting your insight. And again, congratulations on being a father. I'm sure you are, and a multitude of other things going on in your life right now. But I'm sure you're having a ton of fun with your new son. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
And continue doing well on your journey. And also congratulations on kind of doing something for yourself, going out there and kind of going into that competition. Ernesto, tell our listeners what they look forward to next week.
So next week, we're hitting the next summer blockbuster. We are reviewing Anya Taylor-Joy's and Chris Hemsworth's new movie, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Yeah, I'm hyped. I'm hyped for this movie. Like, Mad Max Fury Road is an iconic film. So I can't wait to revisit that. And what's cool is that like Matt, that movie, Charlize Theron, Tom Hardy, I haven't seen that since like it came out. So I almost like it. Yeah. So when I watch it again in preparation for this one, it's gonna be like an initial viewing. So I'm really, really excited for that. Hopefully we get our special. We have a guest that's supposed to come on, so hopefully that follows through. But I'm really excited. The press tour so far has been everything has been very positive regarding this film. So. And something a little different for Chris Hemsworth. So exciting. Yeah, another exciting summer movie that we're going to tackle next week.
The trailers have been really, really good. Like you said, the press has been nothing but positive on the early reviews. But I think I'm more excited about Chris Hemsworth and his wild performance that we've never seen before. And he has like this, all right, everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, what? That's not Chris Hemsworth. Like, that is a bold decision, and I can't wait to see it on screen.
Agreed.
So good for him for just doing something different. And also, what a departure from Thor, what it feels like anyway. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Mad Max. It's very similar to you. It's been a long time since I've seen Fury Road. So I can't wait to revisit that. And I'm sure, given some of the context, this could be up there for some from some Oscar competition.
I'm sure it will
like Fury Road was. But there you go. That's all the show we have for you guys this week. If you want more from us, you can follow us on our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, our X and Letterboxd page at Box Office Binger, and our Instagram and Threads page at Box Office_Bingers. We'd like to thank each and every one of you for listening to us just talk about movies. We really do appreciate it. Brandon, thank you again for joining us. Again, we look forward to having you on for the next one. If it happens to be another couple of months, so be it. But every time we come on, it's always a pleasure having you on. So thank you.
Anytime.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And with that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
And I've been Ernesto Santos. See ya.